What's up, everybody out there in YouTube land? Yes, it's a spooky month! I can't do it. I can't move that fast. Anyway, so we're starting off spooky month here on the main channel with a video by Plant. Alright, this is Logs from the Lookout Part 4, Creepypasta. Alright, so I love the way he does these things with the SFM. Anyway, let's get started here. Alright. Alright, and go.
3 days
Alright.
have passed
Ow!
since my last entry.
Oh.
My bloodied hands are trembling as I write this.
Wait, bloodied hands?
This
What the hell happened?
experience is leaving a heavy scar on my mind, figuratively and literally.
Literally?
I suppose I should record what has happened.
As if
best
something
I
cut through
can.
your head?
Though, the more I try to recall the events, the more my brain attempts to block them out. After the sun rose the day after that thing tried to break into my tower, I lost consciousness. The fatigue of being awake all night, coupled with the shocking events, were too much for my body to handle. Once the adrenaline subsided, I could barely keep my eyes open. I awoke sometime later in the afternoon to the sound of Katie calling me on the radio. She sounded panicked, frightened. When I answered, she practically shouted with joy. She said that after I didn't check in that morning, she had gotten worried that something might have happened to me.
Yeah.
I told her something did happen, but that I was okay now. I spent nearly a half hour explaining the previous night in as much detail as I could recall. She just remained silent on the other end. Once I finished, she only asked me a single question. What do we do now? For the first time in hours, I was finally able to think clearly. I told her that we needed to work together in order to make it out of here.
Yeah.
She agreed, and I asked her if she could handle being alone one more night. She told me that she hadn't seen anything unusual so far, and that she should be alright. I made sure to explain that she needed to barricade her tower as best she could, and keep her gun on her at all times. I then told her that at dawn, I would begin hiking her way. After I got off the radio, I stared at the massive hole where the window once stood. It made me think about Peter, and I wondered if this was what his tower looked like as well. The sun was already descending, and I spent the early part of that night packing up my backpack with all the essentials I could. I made sure my shotgun was loaded, and I leaned against the wall opposite the broken window. I wasn't sure if that thing would come back after getting shot at, but regardless, I'd be ready.
Oh, it'll be back.
Midnight rolled around, and due to my now irregular sleeping patterns, I was still fairly alert. I kept my ears open for any odd sounds coming from outside the tower, but aside from the occasional cricket and frog, there was nothing. Then, the radio emitted a high-pitched whine before Katie's voice came through. She sounded terrified, and told me that something was outside her tower. Upon hearing this, I felt that rush of adrenaline course back into me, and I realized that I had a choice to make. I couldn't just sit idly by like I had done with Peter. I told her that I was on my way, and to just hold on a little while longer. I truly didn't want to be traveling through the woods at night, but if it meant potentially helping Katie, I had to try. Hearing her frightened voice continually looped in the back of my mind. I grabbed my bag, gun, and personal radio, then headed for the door.
She's gonna ruck it.
For the first time in days, I stepped outside of my tower. I moved quickly down the steps, and took note of the direction I needed to head in to make it to Tower 9.
Boom!
I walked briskly, taking care not to sprint, because I knew if I had gotten a leg injury, then we both would be in big trouble.
Yeah.
I moved as fast and as carefully as I could manage.
Yeah, because it's dark as hell out there. You can't
Walking
see shit,
through the
man.
woods was disorienting. Every tree looked nearly identical to each other. I used my flashlight and compass to maintain my heading as best I could. I figured if I could at least make it to the lake, then I'd be able to spot her tower nearby. My senses during the journey felt razor sharp, as every sound and movement
as your adrenaline's like, you know, dialed
I
up
had made
to
no note
11.
of the time when I left, nor during my trek. but it felt like I had been walking for hours. Traversing the uneven terrain was beginning to take its toll on my legs and feet. I stopped briefly to rest against a tree, when the sound of a loud yet distant gunshot echoed around me. That adrenaline I had felt the previous night, and when I heard Katie calling for help course through me yet again. I pushed off the tree and picked up the pace. By this point, I was throwing caution to the wind. I was hurtling over boulders and through dense brush. I was practically sprinting through the woods, and after 10 more minutes, I emerged from the tree line. I was greeted by the soothing sounds of waves lapping against a muddy shore. I had made it to the lake. After taking a moment to look at the moon's reflection in the water, I turned and saw the light from Tower 9. It wasn't too far away from my current location. As I skirted my way along the lake, I kept my eyes fixed on the glowing tower ahead. I was drawing closer and closer when I thought I heard something in the trees to my left. I froze in place and turned, my weapon leveled in that direction.
Yeah!
It was far too dark to make out anything in the trees. I just held my breath and tried my best to focus on any sort of movement. 5 minutes passed without a single sound. Not even the crickets were chirping anymore.
Because they know better.
My body relaxed slightly. I turned and continued walking towards the tower. Once I arrived at the base of the stairs, I looked up at the tower, and a strange yet familiar feeling came over me. It was a feeling I had previously when I looked at Peter's tower. Like this tower was now abandoned. Dread was beginning to fill me, and I rushed up the stairs as quickly as I could. When I got to the door, I stopped.
She was gone.
Inside looked like a tornado hit it. Books and papers were strewn about. Tables and desks were toppled over. I saw no sign of anyone. I slammed my fist against the wall and cursed myself for being too slow. Just when I was about to turn and head back downstairs, I heard something. It was a voice. A whisper calling out to me. I turned back, and on the other side of an overturned desk, huddled in the corner, was a young woman with dark hair. She was clutching a gun in her hands and was trembling terribly. I held my hands up and told her who I was. Her face seemed to light up as she recognized my voice. Then, that light on her face vanished in a flash as she shouted at me to look out. Confused, I turned and was face to face with a large, jagged grin.
What the hell?
Its vacant white eyes were inches away from mine. I felt my entire body lock up, and before I knew it, I was thrown to the ground. It happened so fast I didn't know what had caused it. I felt my legs start being pulled out of the doorway, and I tried to scramble for my gun. It was no use. I was already being dragged forcefully outside. The creature was gripping my leg with such force that I could feel my shins starting to crack.
Jeez.
It jerked me around one of the corners of the stairs, slamming me into the railing. My head impacted with the wood, and I could feel blood dripping down into my eyes. I tried screaming for help, but every step I hit while being dragged took the air out of my lungs. We were halfway down the tower steps when a gunshot sounded. The creature that was holding me reared back and unleashed a deafening screech. As it did
She got him!
It threw its arms to the side. I was still in its grasp, so I went tumbling over the railing and fell from the tower.
Ow!
That was the last thing I remember. I woke up a day and a half later to Katie speaking nearby. I sat up and immediately I could feel pain shooting through my leg and head. Katie saw that I was awake and came over to ask me how I was feeling. I could barely speak, and she told me that everything will be alright. I asked her what had happened, and she said that after she shot at the creature, and it dropped me, it took off down the stairs into the woods. She carried me back up into the tower and bandaged me up as best she could with the tower's first aid kit. I was surprised that such a slender woman was able to lift me back up multiple flights of stairs.
Yeah.
I guess you really can't judge a book by its cover.
No shit.
She said she had been trying to call for help every hour, on any frequency, but haven't been able to reach anybody. I thanked her for saving my life, and she thanked me for trying to save hers. I asked her about that night, and she said that she had heard something climbing up her tower when she called me, but didn't see anything. And when I asked her about the gunshot, she pointed to the roof. She said she remembered what I had told her about the creature climbing onto the roof of my tower.
Oh!
I looked up.
Pretty slick.
And saw multiple holes letting in faint sunlight in the roof. She said she never actually saw the creature. She just panicked and fired. It wasn't until I showed up that she saw it for the first time. She made us some food, and I spent that evening trying my best to recover. Despite
if
my
it's a day and a
poor
half
health,
later,
I
then it
convinced
hasn't
her
come
that
back.
We needed
Then
to take shifts to keep an eye on things until we could get in contact with somebody.
Yeah.
Katie's sleeping right now. And to pass the time, I wanted to write this out. However, it's proving difficult with my shaking hands. I don't know what's going to happen next. We still have 12 more days until we are scheduled to go home. With my messed up leg, I doubt we'll be making a run for it. I'm just glad I'm not alone anymore.
Strong bastard.
I know between the two of us, we can hold out until then.
You hope.
We can
You
make it out.
hope.
I hope we can
Yeah.
make it out.
Okay, this is getting intense now. Like, really intense. Alright? So, awesome. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did. I thought that was a cool way to start out Spooky Month. Like this video and subscribe, guys. Definitely click on the link to the original. Like the original and subscribe to Plant's channel. That was awesome. Anyway, I will see you guys next time for more Spooky Month. And until then, guys, bye-bye.